Hey, welcome to the Links Podcast. Thanks for joining us. Special thanks this week to Michael Gross and Hague Realtors, along with Kingbird Coffee, for sponsoring the Links Podcast. We cannot do it without sponsorship as we build community one conversation at a time. Really excited today for our conversation with Brian Schipper of the Mighty Corson Art Players. Brian is a director, directed 20 shows at Corson, and just an incredible guy, a passion for theater and also for community. I know you're going to enjoy this conversation, so let's get to it. Brian Schipper, thanks for joining us.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
I've had the privilege just of having a few conversations with you over the phone, and it's been a treat. And so I thought, let's get it on a recording, and then we can save it for, posterity.
Certainly.
So tell us a little bit about yourself, Brian. Kind of give us your story, where you grew up, how you made it to Brandon /
Sure.
the area.
Yeah. So I'm originally from the cities, Minneapolis area, with brief stopovers in Dallas for a couple of years and Washington, D.C. for a couple of years, but that was all elementary school. So it was sort of fun to have like the entire southern and eastern part of the United States in my worldview by the time I hit middle school.
Sure.
But then after that, I was in Minneapolis for the rest of that time, all the way through college. I went to a small private Christian school up there. Got a BA in theater, and met my ex-wife, whose family is from Brandon. And so
Nice.
After she graduated, we moved back down here. And so in the Sioux Falls, Brandon-y area, we did a lot of freelance theater stuff. People save up $1,000 and go on vacation. I put up a show that nobody came to see, and did that for a good 5 or 6 years, which was great. It was very fulfilling. I didn't have to deal with anything like bad reviews because nobody knew we were even there doing anything. So it was great. It was complete just what's the word for it? Wish fulfillment on my part.
Checked her off the bucket list.
Exactly.
Starving artist, got it.
Yeah. And then
Is that a thing? The starving artist thing? Is that like really a thing, or did you have a day job?
oh no, had a day job.
Okay.
Had a day job. You kind of have to. And so we did that for a while, just to keep it in my system. It's kind of the only thing I'm good at. Don't tell my bosses in my actual day job. But I hope they don't listen, but they probably won't. So from there, my niece, who lives in Brandon, she got involved in the Mighty Corson Art Players Summer Youth Program. And I got a phone call from my mother-in-law at the time saying, hey, she's performing. I've been bringing her every week. I've been telling all these people that I'm bumping into at Mighty Corson Art Players about you. Come and say hi. And so I went and I did, and I met Cindy Bakke, who's one of my board members still now, and that was an amazing conversation that we had. And that led me to direct my first show out there, and then they didn't return my phone calls for a year and a half. And then
Awkward.
a little bit.
Yeah.
So then I did some freelance directing up in Brookings for the Brookings Community Theater. Lovely people, but it's awful to get off work at 5 and then drive to Brookings 4 nights a week just to run rehearsal for 6 weeks. And then so I, on a whim, one day when I didn't have anything else to do, no theater shows coming up, I auditioned and got cast in a show there, and then was asked to join the board, and that led to me becoming the president, and then eventually also the managing artistic director. So that's that in a nutshell.
So how long have you been in that role now? Just to kind of bring us up to speed.
Oh, sure. So 5 years now.
5 years. Okay.
I've been on the board and sort of helping run the ship.
No pun intended.
Oh, no, that's a good one, though. Next time it will be.
Run the ship. Aye, Captain. Yeah, hey. So I just recently went to the Psychic, and I don't, like, for me, I did some theater in in high school. I've done a little bit through our church over the last 15 years. And so I have an extremely high view, probably overinflated view of my talent level. And so I'm going out there, I'm like, this is going to be a chance for John to kind of moonlight here in my role as an actor. And within the first 5 minutes of the Psychic, I was like, oh, these people, they're for real. This is no joke. You guys are awesome. We have incredible theater. And 2 hours went past in a flash. I loved it. It was just it was a great show and obviously well directed, but great talent. And as a, just a very, not necessarily a theater person, but I was just thrilled and entertained by it. So thank you for definitely.
Well, thank you for saying so. That's the goal. It'd be awful for you to come by and say, hey, decent job, I guess.
Right. Well, it really was, and I'm of course, I know how much you're paying me for this, so. But no, it was. I would encourage, anybody that's listening, if you haven't been out there, incredible experience, and it was fun too. It's this smaller theater.
Yeah. You
said there was 95 chairs. I don't believe that. It doesn't.
Actually 106, but we saved the back peanut gallery for volunteers. So, so we cram a whole lot in there. That building, it's been used for theater for on and off for 100 years now at this point. So it's been laid out very carefully, and it's not a very big space, but it's been very economically used. And there's, I've been doing this for a long time, and there's nothing like that space,
Wow.
and Mighty Course and Art Players has this great 40-year almost now history there. And it's, I love it.
Yeah, give us a little, from what you know, give us a little background on the history of the Playhouse and the relationship between the township. We talked a little bit about that.
Yeah.
How it's become what it is takes a collaboration of the community and the artists. Talk about that a little bit and the history of the.
Yeah. So the building itself, as far as I can tell, we did some historical research and deep dive into it with our 40th anniversary coming up soon. The building itself was built late 1880s, 1890. Just that initial portion where the actual stage and seats are was the original what was there. And if you go there, you can still see the outlines of the old window frames that were the exterior windows out. We've got chalkboards in for that now. But so it started out originally as a creamery and a farm parts store. And it ran that way for 20 years. And then the family surrendered it to the Brandon Township. So the Brandon Township, still to this day, owns the building, and it's the county seat, I guess, for the Brandon Township. So they still have their meetings. So we have to do all of our scheduling around when they have their meetings, because they're required by law to have them at certain times. But then so by the 1920s, there was the Corson Dramatic Club already performing shows there. And then when they fizzled out in the 1930s, there's a group called the Pepperites that took it over from 35 to 40, and they were doing shows there. And then when World War II broke out, it turned into a dance hall and a community kitchen where people would bring in all sorts of food, and they'd have these big communal, Victory Garden-esque dinners and evening entertainment for everybody to rally morale and whatnot.
Sure. Wow.
And then after that, it sort of fell into a little bit of disuse aside from just, the township meetings, until Mighty Course and Art Players formed in 1982 and started that tradition all over again of bringing theater to the community. And we've been doing it ever since. Yeah.
What a cool, I for me, having lived in Brandon for, just a little over 6 years, not understanding the history at all of that place. And it's a living history. Like, you go in there, you can feel that.
Yeah.
When you share that, I can feel that. What tell me about your passion for theater. Obviously, it's not been necessarily a straight path or an easy path, but
No.
Well, talk to me about what motivated you. When did you first start getting involved in theater?
Sure. For me, my very first theater credit ever was middle school production of The Wiz. And I wanted to, but didn't. I was a really shy only child. And so I was offered the chance to be a part of this show. And my job, and I'll never forget it, was to be the backstage person who emptied a bag of flour onto the spell book of the witch, so that way she could have a dusty book. That was my job, and I was in for it. And I made sure I got this little Ziploc bag, and it's like, okay, we have 4 shows. I'm going to make sure that it's the same consistent amount each time. And then I didn't do anything again until my sophomore year of high school, where I chased a couple friends into an audition, and I ended up accidentally auditioning for a 1-act. And that was a time in my life when I was really struggling to find my voice and figure out who I was as a kid. And then it just sort of took off, and I didn't look back after that. The summer before my senior year in high school, I enrolled in a summer camp at Augsburg College where they pulled in theater professionals from Minneapolis, 1 a day for 2 weeks to, host workshops on a specific thing. And so I made connections with all of them, and was constantly, beating them down afterwards, going, give me an internship. I want responsibilities. Because at this point, I wasn't getting cast in shows like you normally think you would in high school. My best friend, Scott Dietering, was an inch taller and 20 pounds lighter than I was. So I was backstage a lot. And then, it just sort of took off from there. I really liked learning how to build sets and figuring out, how do you use, in college, rivet gun, PVC pipe, and shingles to make a palm tree, stuff like that for South Pacific. And so it just, once I started, I never looked back, and I was always going to do that. Whether I could make a living off of it or not, who cared, as long as I got to do this thing that I discovered accidentally that I had a real big passion for, and there wasn't anything that was ever going to stop me from doing it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And it's even more impressive, I think, for you to get to have this love behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Because as a director, I understand that's kind of been your main role is directing. Mm-hmm. You've directed 20 shows. Is that right? Did I get that right? 20 at
Corson.
At
now.
Corson.
Yeah.
How many overall have you directed?
I think I'm right around in the low 30s.
So that serving those people who are up front, getting the that are the leads, if you will,
right?
Playing that second chair in a very important role of leadership. What has that taught you? Just your theater. There's a lot of. We have an incredible theater program in Brandon.
Yeah.
We just at the time of this recording, we just finished the run not only for the Psychic but also for Mary Poppins. Mm-hmm. And I got to see Mary Poppins, and I was just blown away by the talent and the energy that goes into something like that. And what would you say you've learned through theater as a part of your educational life process? It's obviously a big part of your life.
Yeah.
But what have been some of the life lessons you've taken away?
Well, for one, it's improved my communication miles and miles and miles, because you have to be able to not just be assertive and quick thinking, but you also need to be able to read the room and figure out how, which conversational tools are going to get what you need out of different people. It's not about getting people to bend to how you do things. It's the other way around. So, I've learned so much about, communication, problem solving, time management, improvisation when things go wrong. But really, I've learned that I'm really, really good at and really, really love helping other people be better in whatever they want to do. And that's the chief pull for me now. I don't have a lot in the way of individual goals left because I've done a lot of it. I've been able, we were talking before the podcast started about wish fulfillment and how a lot of my early theater career was that. But now my success is rooted in helping MCAP be a better theater. And you do that by welcoming actors and hopefully helping other actors be better. And then they'll go off and do other things greater and better. And really just hoping to raise the tide of theater in the region. A rising tide lifts all boats is something my costumer tells me all the time. And I absolutely believe it. And that's the biggest lesson, I think.
How about this idea? Because we're doing this podcast, and the purpose of the podcast is to build community one conversation at a time.
Yeah.
And I think, we can all agree that in our world, there's not a lot of civil or constructive discourse. I mean, that's not the rule. When it comes to theater, what role does theater play in building community, not only within the actors, but also in the broader sense of maybe of the highlighting or focusing on social issues? Talk about community. You said that you want to make sure that we keep the community in community theater.
Exactly. Yeah. And you're right, because theater holds a mirror up to life, and that's one of the greatest blessings and curses all at the same time. So being able to have a voice and a point of view just to highlight things that are going on. For example, our fall show next year deals a lot with, the current working economy, but in a dark comedic way. So getting that balance between being entertaining, but also, trying to set an ethical example, not only in how we approach other people, but also, the point of view and stories that we're telling without being overly preachy. Because that's not the point of why people go to see a show either. But it's nice to make people think. It's better to make people feel. And the most important part is making them feel welcome, which is what we really, really strive for. And if nothing else, theater brings 100 people a night together to have a shared experience. And that alone, the ability to have that and have that amongst people that you're then going to see, out at the grocery store or getting gas, all of that, that shared experience and being able to have that and provide that for the community does far more than the content of any script in terms of keeping that community together. And that's where I really believe we've been focusing really successfully on providing that welcoming experience and that sense of family and togetherness. Like I was telling you before we started, community theater, the first word in it is community. And that's got to be where our goal is, because without that, without the support of actors, patrons, audience, we're kind of just some idiots in a dark room not doing anything.
Talking to each other.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's well said. I mean, somebody should be writing this down. I'm not sure who, but somebody should be writing this down. I appreciate your perspective, because you're right. There's so few like truly live venues where you can have that shared experience. And I had that experience when I recently was out to see. I ran into two people afterwards that were in the theater, and I didn't even realize they were in the theater. And they're like, "Hey, we saw you at the play." And I was like, "You did?"
Sure.
Because I was my wife. I had planned this date with my wife, and we were going to go together. She decided that she didn't want to go out with me.
Oh.
So it's heartbreaking. So I kind of went solo, and I was a little concerned.
In case she's watching, I'm just going to scowl at the camera for just a second.
It's okay. We bought a ticket.
Okay, well, scowl rescinded.
Yeah. I did get to sit in two chairs, so that was a
right.
bonus. But no, so just being there, I felt kind of alone. I experienced that feeling of not knowing. I didn't know anybody else was going to be there.
Sure.
And so I had some anxiety, and then to come and to see people that I knew, and to have people go, hey, how you doing? And welcome me. That experience for me was really powerful. And I walked out of there just going, wow, that was worth it. You know, it was worth the not just the ticket price of admission, but just being, you know, afterwards. And it's weird. Like I'm a grown person.
Sure.
And afterwards I was standing up there like kind of fanboying with the like
yeah.
Hey. And I remember I gave the detective, what was his name?
Coslow, Mike Richards. Yeah.
I was like, hey man, give me the fist bump. You know, like, and he was very gracious. He's like, who is this weirdo? Like,
oh no, he wasn't thinking that.
He wasn't thinking that.
No, he loves that stuff. So
cool.
Yeah.
Well, next time I'm gonna make sure that I can like get autographs and stuff. Because
sure.
You guys brought me in. I was wrapped up. So, and now we get to talk.
Yeah.
This is great.
That's awesome. I love hearing that stuff. It's, you know, there's such a responsibility with a nonprofit organization like ours, with the history that we have, you know, to really make those connections and really reinforce that interconnectedness. You know, we drill our volunteers from the start. You know, it starts right when you walk in the door. Everybody gets greeted, everybody gets talked to, everybody gets that direct person-to-person contact, and it's so important in building those positive relationships.
Well, cool. Well, Brian, I tell you what, man, how can someone in the Brandon community or the Sioux Falls area, I mean, how can we, I know you got a fall season coming up, and when this airs, that'll be up and coming. How can we get involved besides, you know, we can buy tickets?
Yep.
How else can we get involved?
Sure. You can follow us on Facebook. Mighty Corson AP, I think, is where we are there. That keeps us up, or keeps you up to date in everything that we do. Okay. You can just shoot me an email, brian@mightycorson.com, just to say hello. Or something we're really excited about, on July 16th, it's a Saturday, we're turning 40 and we're having a big birthday party. So just come on out that afternoon to evening, hang out. We're doing a whole bunch of really cool stuff, getting the community together for that. And that'll be a really, really good entry point just to come out, eat some free food, listen to some live music, and say hello.
Cool. What do you bring for a birthday present for a 40-year-old playhouse?
Good question. I have not thought of that. Just a smiling face and a $3 for a beer.
Okay, there you go. Perfect.
All right.
Can do it. All right. Hey, thanks a lot, Brian, for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us on the Love Your Neighbor podcast. The purpose of the Love Your Neighbor podcast is to build community one conversation at a time. You can help us build that community by sharing the podcast on your social media channels and rating our podcast on whatever platform you're listening from. Another way is to let us know of any neighbors who have a story. Go Leaks!